Okay. In the software that I sent, in the class 2 files that I sent you guys, there are two inside the student files. There are two installers. One is for Macintosh and the other's for Windows. So if you take a look inside the folder, one of them says camera calibration setup.exe. Can you guys find that file? That is for the Windows people. Go ahead and double click that and run it and just say yes, 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 all the way through. Unless you've already done this. Have you guys already done this? Oh, okay. So in session 2, there's two files. One is called camera calibration setup. The other one is called color checker camera calibration. If you're on Windows, you want to run the camera calibration setup.exe. If you're on Mac, you want to run the color checker camera calibration.pkg. If you've already installed the software for the Color Checker Pro work, you don't need to install it again. But otherwise, you guys need to run this thing. So who is actually installing? Okay. You need to tell me when it's installed. I'm going to pause my guy really quickly. Yes. All right, so I'm going to launch mine. So application folder, because I'm on a Macintosh, it's going to be this. Color Checker Camera Calibration app. I'm going to double click on that. It's actually going to open it up. It's going to remind me that I haven't calibrated my monitor in a while. That's fine. I'm okay with that. So is everybody got this much, this far? Anybody not? Okay. We need to build a file to work in here. This works to build DNGs, but you'll see at the very top here, it'll say DNG, dual illuminate DNG, or ICC.tiff. You can make ICC profiles in this software as well, which is what you need to use for if you want to do this very same work in Capture One. It does not, Capture One does not work with DNG profiles, but all of the camera raws do. So Lightroom, Photoshop, all the Adobe Suite is all DNG profiles, so that's what we're going to make today. So the next file that we're looking for, again, is in your week number 2. So retouching, class 2, students, and what you're looking for is there is a DNG custom profile example files folder. So inside your week number 2, DNG custom profile example files folder. If you open that up, inside you should have only one CR2. Do you guys have a CR2 and a DNG by any chance? All right, just the CR2. I'm going to throw my DNG away, so I'm the same as you. Double click on that CR2. It will actually open up in Camera Raw. And the only thing we need to do, so again, stop me if you don't get there. If I get ahead of you and you're not opening Camera Raw right now, let me know. Okay, if you take a look at the upper right-hand corner of your, inside your Camera Raw window, there is a little box with an arrow pointing down through the top. You need to click on that. This will actually allow you to save a DNG copy of this file, which is what we need to do. We need to make one of that. So again, the little square on the top right-hand corner that's got the arrow pointing down in it, click on that. It says what? This is a preference restart for you. Oh no. Just grab this guy and drag it on top of it. Hopefully it will work on yours. Okay, so did everybody get this far? When this dialog opens up, basically what it's designed to do is save a version of your file. Your CR2 file is a DNG file. It's going to put it in this, if you don't make any changes here, it's going to put it in the same location. You could select a different place to put it, but we want it next to the one that we're doing. It's going to give it a DNG extension. Just hit save. You'll see a little lower left-hand side, there's a little blue bar that goes across to do progress. Once that's actually happened, you can simply hit cancel. Yes. Double-clicking on the file, the CR2 file. I'm in Camera Raw. I click on the box at the top that's got the arrow on it. I hit save. Then I hit cancel. And I go back to my Finder, right where that CR2 file was, and right next to it should be a copy. Has exactly the same name, just with a .dng at the end instead of a .cr2. Does everybody have that file? This is what you want to drag on top of that software you just loaded. So if you go to the software you just loaded, again, the color checker camera calibration software, if you grab that DNG and drag it on top of that window and let go, it will load it. If that's for some reason doesn't work for you, you can come up to your file menu and come down to load image, but in my case mine's already loading. And it actually, in my case, found the color checker and actually put a grid of little squares on top of it. Now, if yours doesn't find the color checker, again, that's this thing right here that I've already showed you guys. If it doesn't find the color checker, you can use the tools on the top right-hand side to actually locate it. So you can use the magnifying glass to zoom in and zoom out. If you grab the little arrow with the plus next to it, you'll see you can grab the corners of this grid and you can move them around. So you can move the entire grid. You just want to make sure that when you do this, that those little squares are perfectly inside, that they're not overlapping and hitting some of the black or anything else here. The auto does a very good job of finding these, but if it can't, you can place it there yourself. Does that make sense to everyone? Okay, before we do anything else, go back to the Finder, or back to your desktop, wherever you are in Windows. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be excluding the Windows people. Select the file that you've got. Don't double click on it, just select one of them. It doesn't matter which one. If you hit the return key on Macintosh, it will actually select just the name, and you want to do a copy of this. So up to the edit menu, down to copy. We're just going to copy the name so that we can make a profile for the shooting that's actually named the same name as the shooting files are named. So I'm just going to do Command C, that's the shortcut to do a copy, and then I'm going to go back to this profiling software, and I'm going to say Create Profile down at the very bottom. So I'm going to click on bottom right hand side, Create Profile. It's going to say, okay, well, what do you want to call this thing? And I'm going to say, I do not want to call this EOS 5D Mark II, even though that was the camera that made it. I'm going to name this after my shooting, because not only is my camera critical to this, so is the lighting that I used for this. Yes? Yes. The thing is that this profile is unique to your camera, so you have to make one of these with the camera that you're using, and it will be only unique to that camera body. So if you've got, like, what do you shoot with? Sony? If you've got two Sonys, you have to make separate profiles for each one and tag them that way. So typically people will tag them with, if they're the exact same model, people use the serial number. But again, no, this profile will not work for anything but this one camera, and it's not this model, it's this camera body. Does that make sense to everyone? That's how specific you need to be with this stuff. So anyway, because I've actually got the name of my shooting on here, you would think that you would be able to just hit Command V to paste it, and it doesn't work. Nothing works in there. If you hit the delete key, you will get rid of the name. Then to get a drop-down menu in Macintosh, if you've got a right button mouse, you click on the right button and you will get a drop-down menu that will give you paste. If you don't have a right button mouse, you can hold down the control key and click, and you should get a drop down menu. You do. And you can come down to do paste. Also, if you've got a trackpad for a Macintosh, you can do a 2-finger swipe down and get it. But anyway, you need to paste the name of the shooting in there. You'll see that when I did that, it also got rid of the extension. This is all problematic this is all on the camera calibration people software. This is stuff that they fucked up here. This is not working the way it normally should. But nonetheless, I'm going to get rid of the frame number. I don't need that, but then I'm going to put in a .dcp. Stands for DNG calibration profile, and not something on the end of that. So then, where is this going? This is going to be part of your assignment. You are going to make 4 of these this coming week. You need to then turn those profiles in as part of your assignment, so you need to go find them. This is where they are. It's in the assignments, so for the Windows people, simply look at the assignment. It'll show you where these profiles are stored. For the Macintosh people, you can just whip out your phone and shoot a picture of this, because that's where yours are. So I've just clicked on the drop-down menu underneath it on your screen. You should have the same thing that I'm seeing right here. So it's in the user library under application support inside Adobe Camera Raw profiles, camera profiles. Make sense? Are we good here? Okay, so for me, I'm going to call this number 99. I've got so many of these. I've done this so many times with this same file. I need to give it a weird number to make a distinction between it, but you guys will be fine with that 01. Are we good on this part? And then go ahead and hit save. I not only do one for every single camera I own, I do it for every lighting situation. So the camera profile itself, the sensor, will get you 95% of the way there. But if you really want the best you can possibly get, you do it for the lighting as well. So I'm out in the woods on this shooting. It's relatively bright in the morning. I do 2 or 3 shots under that same light. I don't need to build a new profile for that. But then it got to be really overcast in the afternoon, completely different color of light. So I made another profile for my afternoon. I go in the studio and I'll do one single setup, and I will shoot that with no lighting changes. I'll keep one profile for 2 weeks. But I also go into the studio setting and I'll do 10 shots, and every single one of them is individually lit. I will do a profile for every single one of them. What were you going to say, Patrick? Okay. What? We're going to use it right now. So we're going to go ahead and say, so it says it was successfully created. Go ahead and say okay, and then you can quit this software. Done everything it needs to do. Everybody good on that part? All right. So at this stage of the game, we are going to launch that same raw file, that CR2 file again. So just double click on it, go back into Camera Raw. But now we're going to use this thing to actually give us unambiguous color. That whole process we just went through was to develop a profile to remove the device dependence of our sensor. Make sense? So to do that, you need to find, if you open up in the Basics panel, open up the Color panel. Actually, I take that back. Open up, hang on. Oh, the Profile one at the very top. This has gotten to be so important for Photoshop and for Lightroom people, whatever. This profile used to be buried down in, it was buried down in the panel that actually allowed you to do calibration. They've now moved it up. It is like the #1 thing you do. This is before you do any color work or light or any of that kind of work. So up in the top where it says right now, mine says Camera Standard. You will notice that there's a little icon to the right of that looks like 4 little squares with a magnifying glass. This is the browser. I prefer to go here. You can use the drop-down menu, but I prefer to use the browser. So I'm going to click on the browser. It will open up this thing of thumbnails, and what you need to do is the ones that are at the very top, there's a lot of canned profiles in here. There's the Adobe Standard, there's an Adobe Portrait, an Adobe Neutral. All of these have been developed by Adobe actually using this very same process. What you're looking for is the folder in here that just says Profiles. If you click that open, you will actually see all these profiles that are underneath the little thumbnails. You probably should only have 1 in there. do not select it. This is what I want you to do first instead. Just hover over it. Don't select it, hover over it, and then take your cursor off, and then back on, and then back off. Look what's happening to your image. Do you think that's a subtle change? No, this is massive, and there is no way in hell you would know how to do this or why to do this or correct for this. If you zoom in to the color card and hover over it again, look specifically what happens to the blues. So especially the blue patch that's down in the lower left-hand side, it gets way darker and way more saturated when I use the correct profile. What that's telling me is that my sensor in this camera body is too sensitive to blue light. So it's overreading the blue, and it's making all of my blues considerably brighter than they actually should be. But look at what happens to that sweater. Are you fucking kidding me? How do you know to make that correction? You would never know that. So then you simply click on that profile, which will now be the profile that you want for this. And then you do your color balancing. So I'm going to zip back out to do your color balancing, because we haven't done that part yet. At the very top underneath the histogram, there's a little word that says a back with an arrow next to it. This will actually take you back to the basic panel. And then we can go to color and click on the white balance. Again, what we've done is remove the sensor bias, but we haven't white balanced this image. We've just removed the sensor bias. You still need to white balance it, and you still need to check the exposure and everything else. So I'm clicking on the white balance eyedropper. I'm zooming into the color card so I can get to the patch, to the gray patch that's right next to the red. That's the one I typically go for. And click on that. This is now, and hover over the white and see what my readout is, and it's still at that 245 to 250. Perfect exposure, perfect color, because now you've removed the bias of your sensor. Is this making sense to everybody what's going on? Okay, before we do anything else in here, because this part is now correct, these are the files that you are going to need to turn into me. So go back to your Finder before, we're not even going to get out of here yet. Go back to your Finder. That DNG that you made originally is a baked DNG. We need to make another one that has the correct profiles in it. Because if you don't use the profile for the if you don't use a DNG as your base, when you make these profiles, right now you've got the color correction profile is sitting in your computer. But if you take an image that you, and you go ahead and you process your, you process your image and everything's great, whatever, but then you put that on our external hard drive and then you bring it, or you send it to me for me to grade. When I open that thing up, it's not going to have that profile in it because that profile is sitting in your computer. So we need to embed that in something that will actually hang on to it, and DNGs will hang on to it. But the first DNG that we made is already baked. So even if I load this thing in there right now, it will not stick in here. So throw this DNG away. Go back to your camera raw. Everything is good now. I've got the correct profile. I am white balanced. Then make another DNG of this with these corrections made. So again, I'm not editing an existing DNG. I'm creating a brand new one. Click on the arrow that's in the little box. Hit save. And you will be good to go. This is the DNG you'll turn in that has the profile in it as well as the white balance. Again, when you read through the assignments,